welcome to another episode of Nerd Age. This is the show where we talk about everything nerdy. My name is Mick, and with me as always are my co-hosts Josh.
What's up?
Corey.
Yo.
And Jonah.
Hello.
Welcome to the show, guys. We're going to jump into some Last of Us Episode 2 HBO show. We're going to do some just spoiler talk. So, spoiler alert. If you haven't watched the show, go ahead and watch it, and then come back and listen to us talk.
You know, I really should have my guitar whenever we do this and just kind of be playing.
Yeah,
You
should
should
learn
play
the
it.
little like chord like strumming he does. Yeah.
Yes. Missed opportunity. Next time, guys. It basically just dropped, what, like 2 hours ago?
Yeah.
So we just watched it. So we'll go into piece by piece, but I have a question. As someone who hasn't played the game, Ellie, for me, was a little bit annoying in this episode. Is she like that in the game? Or for you guys that have played it, is she like that? Or is this kind of like a little more...
So, I will say that Ellie has been perfect.
Okay.
She is spot on,
Yeah.
Ellie. That is, I see that as part of her charm. She's like kind of picky at Joel when she wants to be, but she's also a very loyal person that maybe you'll see more down the road. But no, like that type of like annoyance and kind of childish behavior that she has.
She is 14.
She is 14. It's like it's
To be fair.
it's perfectly Ellie. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I was just curious. Not that it was
Yeah.
not that it was something I was like, oh, she's annoying me, but I was like, I just wanted to get a gauge of like, is this kind of how she is in the games, especially when you first start the games? Or is
That's
this
how
kind
that's
of
how I
what
see it
more-
anyway. I don't. Did you guys feel that same way?
I mean, yeah, I agree with you. For me, she was just like she is in the games. You know what I mean? She's kind of like always back talking, always doing stuff. You know what I mean? Like always with a quip or, you know, you could say kind of being annoying. But yeah, I think for me, I think it worked perfectly for how she is in the games.
Yeah, and I think it kind of goes hand in hand with kind of how her life's been, and it's kind of just a reflection of that, where she has to be like super protective of herself, and she'll be like quick with things, she'll be prickly sometimes, and she'll be sarcastic, and I mean, obviously she cusses a ton, right? I mean, that's just
Yep.
innate to her character because she grew up in that. What's it called? Not the DZ. What's it called?
The
Fedra?
Fedra?
Yeah,
Fedra.
Fedra. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, from what I remember, and honestly, I played the game a long time ago.
Yeah.
So, from what I remember, yeah, spot on so far. Really
All
good.
right. Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah.
Jumping into the episode, I really liked. So the 2 episodes we've seen, I've liked how it's kind of started more with the like the
History.
medical side of
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
And like the doctor. I thought it was a great scene. When they go and get her, like all leading up to that was like, okay, we know something's going on. They found something. The autopsy scene, like when she pulls stuff out of her mouth, like that
Gross.
whole stuff was like
That thing gets me every
really
time.
well
Yeah,
done.
it's gross.
But I think the best part of it was, first off, I like when they do like different languages and they use subtitles.
Yeah,
It gives
me
like
too.
a realism to it. I wish Star Wars kind of did that more with like alien languages.
Yeah.
I like it. And so, but the line I really liked is when he's like, what is there a vaccine? Is there a medicine? And she was like, a bomb. Like just bomb the whole
Obliterate it.
city,
Yeah.
like everyone in it. And she's like, and then she asks, can someone take me home? I want to be with my family.
Dang.
I just thought that was a perfect way to start the episode. And I kind of hope they continue to do that, where the intros are always kind of like showing you how it all started, because I think they've done a really good job. The interview was awesome in the first episode, building kind of that tension, and
Yeah.
then this was another great moment, great way to show it. But what did you guys think of the opening?
Yeah, no, I think I agree with you. The intros have been good, like just kind of setting the tone. Both of them have been added scenes from the game, so you don't really get any background of like Jakarta. Maybe they mention it like in recordings somewhere, but I don't remember off the top of my head if they ever explicitly talk about, oh, it started in Indonesia and stuff like that. So that's added information that wasn't in the game. That's fun to kind of see. And I don't know if there's people out there that would be upset about it, like, oh, it wasn't in the game, so why are they adding it?
Yeah.
But I think for me, it like expands the world. Just kind of getting a background. Like, I don't need to see like every single instance of like how it played out, but like just getting that scene of like them trying to figure out like, how did this happen? Oh, she got bit by somebody, and who bit her? Like, where are they at? Kind of a thing. Like, was pretty cool to kind of see, and just that kind of, like you said, that thought process of, I mean, there's no way we can contain it. Just bomb every city. Like,
And that was like 2 days before the stuff with Joel.
Yeah, I think so.
Right. So that's like how fast that spread. That's crazy.
because they mentioned it on the radio.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, Jakarta or whatever. So, but yeah, I thought it was really well done.
I've got a question. Is the only way you get infected, obviously I think it changes in the games, is the only way you get infected is if you get bit by them? Because they mentioned the biting, but I thought they mentioned the flour mill, and in episode 1 they kind of keep showing the fact that they don't have any waffle mix at their house.
No cake.
He doesn't get the cake. The guy says, hey, do you guys want some biscuits? They don't eat the biscuits. When she goes to do the cooking, like, she doesn't want the cookies. So I thought they were making like a reference of like they didn't eat anything that had flour in it. Well, and maybe that's why people were infected.
That's
like,
how it initially starts. And I think they reference it in the game, but it's very subtle, like through like newspaper articles that you can look at.
Okay.
But this, it seems like they're directly
so it starts
saying
that way, and then the next thing is
in the game, I believe it's through like biting, saliva, and then the spores, which aren't in the show.
Right.
I think it's more like what you would think of like a zombie apocalypse to be like in the game. This seems to be a little bit different, but it's close. I think it's close.
Yeah, because she, at the beginning, she was like, oh, at a flour mill, and then she said something. Can't remember exactly the word she said, but it's to infer that was like the perfect spot for it to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She said
because of the
something she said, and I was like, it was like prime, or I don't. It wasn't prime like prime spot or anything, but it was
Ideal. Yeah.
ideal or something. And I was like, oh, okay.
Huh.
And I remember the flower stuff, and I was like, okay, so there's something there.
Yeah.
But it has to have been transformed, or I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it is if you ingest it also, as they're going with that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was wondering, because I was like, is it because the old lady didn't seem like she was bit with anything? It seemed like more like she's been eating stuff.
Yeah,
and it was
force-fed those.
It force-fed the biscuits, and then it started growing in her. So maybe that's like a slower process, and then the biting is what makes it a quicker process. That's what I was just kind of curious as to if you guys knew anything more about that.
I'd say that's probably pretty accurate.
Maybe.
For sure. But yeah, when we left off with Joel, Ellie, and Tess, they were going out into the city, out beyond the wall. Very suspenseful, trekking through these like rundown buildings and stuff. I thought the set designs were
that's
like,
awesome.
The show just looks so good.
Yeah, the sound design and the set design is kind of what enables them to emulate the intensity and the tension of the games that you get.
Yeah.
They're using kind of the same tools, but the set design is killer. It feels like a better version of the games. You know, it looks so real and it's so engrossing. You're so in it. That's a big reason why.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I was going to ask you guys. For you guys that have played the game, for me, it was tense. You know, when they get into that one spot. I can't remember the museum.
Yeah, the museum.
And they're going through and it's dark and there's all the vines everywhere and there's the people that have kind of turned into the fungi and all that stuff. How did it feel for you guys that have played the game? Because obviously video games are really immersive, right?
Very active.
Yeah, because you're controlling the character and all this kind of stuff. So how did it feel for you guys? Was it comparable to the game? Did it feel like not even close?
For me, it was like absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
it felt as close to like it felt like I'm playing a game when I'm watching something.
Okay.
And I think I said it last week too. They've nailed like the tone of the world that they've built, and I think that is extremely key to getting this whole thing right. And so far, I think they've really done the suspense perfectly. They've done the surroundings perfectly. We get to see clickers finally in this episode, and it's straight out of the game. Like you were
Yeah.
saying, Corey, the sound design of them is like perfect. I mean, so far they've been doing everything that I would expect from an adaptation, but it works in like a TV show setting, which is really cool.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons why this is working, but one thing I was thinking about was when you're playing The Last of Us, you can do things differently. You can take different routes. You can maybe, instead of like, shoot the guy, you can throw something to distract him and get by. But the end result is almost always the exact same thing.
Right.
And so that's what's helpful in this game, is that the game was built to be a really good story from start to finish. There are so many games that are so much more open than that, to where maybe my experience wouldn't feel like what I'm seeing on the big screen, but it was, because, well, it's more of a linear, it is super linear, the game is. So I think it works super well because of how the game was made. It was like almost built for it.
Yeah, and as far as like that scene, for me, it captured exactly the same way you feel in the game, because as soon as you go into like a basement, or as soon as you go into a building and you hear like the clicking, you're like, okay, where are they? Like, let me find where he's at, and let me not run really fast or kick a bottle, God forbid, so that they don't attack me. So you're just like, you're like looking around. So for me, that scene was just like exactly the same. And then in the game, you're always like trying to hold on to your ammo. So when he ran at Tess and she missed, I told Crystal, I was like, that's you playing every time. Like they rush you and she's like, pop, 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 just like missing. I'm like,
big time.
Shoot him in the head. I think that scene was awesome. Like just like our first kind of really experience with the type of gameplay that you would see in the game. I think it translated to the show just perfectly.
Yeah, it's a testament yet again to the game.
Yeah.
In where it's this management of ammo and like resources, but it would reflect something as to real world if you were in that situation where it's like you'd only have like 3 boxes of ammo, and after months and months, where else would you find ammo?
Yeah.
Like, sparingly. Yeah. And then you got to get creative with like a crowbar or an axe.
I was like, Joel's got to start finding some scissors and tape so he can start making his weapons, his melee weapons.
Yeah.
All right.
Craft them up.
I did think there was a very a missed opportunity.
Okay.
If this was a Marvel show,
Okay.
when they go into that room and there's like the old Civil War stuff, like the uniforms and stuff,
Oh no.
and Revolutionary War, like they should have had a clicker dressed in one of those, and maybe like with a wig, and it would like had something like that,
Okay.
just to be like a humor aspect,
Like a
'Cause I
little
felt like
goofy.
we were missing that aspect. It was like, oh, look at these clickers.
You need the levity.
Yeah,
Like I'm drowning in this.
Marvel would
Crazy.
have totally, Disney Plus would have totally done something.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
His click somehow has an accent. British
that.
accent.
Yeah.
British click.
I was gonna say though, I have a weird thing, with we were talking set design. There's something that I really like about civilizations or other things that just are
Overrun.
like, overrun.
Yeah.
And I have one of the earliest memories I have, and I don't know why this is the case.
Is this a real memory?
This is a real memory.
Core memory.
Core memory.
Being at my Uncle Bruce and Aunt Linda's house when I was a little kid and watching Planet of the Apes, and specifically watching Planet of the Apes 2, Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
The best one.
And they, in the first Planet of the Apes, spoiler, you find out he's actually on Earth. You see the Statue of Liberty. They blew it all up. But in the second one, he goes to like the subway and all stuff. And I remember as a kid just being like really interested in that aspect, like, man, it's all over what happened, this whole aspect. And ever since then, that aesthetic I'm just drawn to. It made an impact on me. And so anytime, it's really silly, but like these shots that you're seeing with like the buildings toppled over, and when they're going through the hotel and seeing all these things, I'm just like, I just like looking at background things and being like, oh, that's cool. Like, who thought to set the design like this, Anyways, it was just, so that aspect of it gets me excited. I know it's a silly thing, but it was so well done that it
cool.
just felt like, even the shot, like they're walking and you see their feet and there's like a stuffed tiger sitting down.
I know, I
like
saw
that
that.
kind of stuff is just
It's like that's a story, right?
And people would say like, oh, it's not a big deal, but it's like that kind of stuff puts you in the world.
Oh, yeah.
And it makes it believable, and it kind of little things like that you pick up on, and it helps you to just kind of be like lose yourself in that. So I just think
No, it's
like you
huge.
guys have
No,
said,
you're right.
like set design is great.
No, because instantly when I saw that little giraffe,
It was a draft. That's what it was.
or yeah, I think it was a yellow giraffe, I saw it and I imagined a family panicking and the kid getting pulled somewhere, you know, and dropping the toy. And like I could just imagine the freeway being just hell, you know,
Yeah.
and just super chaotic. And they didn't even do anything. Like,
Yeah.
they
Just a
just
shot.
placed, you know, the set pieces were just so good. And that, so yeah, hats off to the prop team. They're killing it.
It does like
Set
go
designers.
it does go back to kind of how the game is as well, as like you'll have multiple situations where you're like, oh, I go into this supermarket and I find a note, and then you read about the people in the supermarket, or then you find a safe, you know, and they're like, oh, the code's my birthday or whatever, and then you have to go and find like, oh, there's a calendar on the wall, and there's a, you know,
There's a circled red number there.
right, so it's like that comes from the game also, and it's like you do kind of get like the side stories of like
Yeah.
these people that you'll never interact with.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like these clues that they've left behind. So I think that a lot of that, I think, does play into also what they're doing live action. Like you said, there's that, like you said, Corey, you're like imagining what happened to that
instantly
family.
was. Yeah.
And that's
crazy.
yeah, it's really well done.
Yeah, they're doing a great job with that for sure. They also added a new kind of element to the whole fungus
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
with the whole interconnective, basically like giant.
It was kind of like Stranger Things in that way, where
yeah.
the tendrils
Yeah.
have feeling, basically nerves. They're almost like nerves.
Yeah, they're all connected.
The nerve system.
which wasn't in the game, but I think it's a great addition to it.
Yeah, I think it's a good trade off for the spores.
Yeah,
So I know we
Yeah,
talked about last week that we were like, oh, well, it's a little different from the game and it takes away a little bit from the danger. But I think this kind of adds that. But it's a different type of danger that's similar to the spores.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful of like, oh, I don't want to step on.
And when he was like, it's dry as bone.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. You know, that's cool.
Yeah. So
I thought that scene was cool too.
Now we know.
Towards the end, where they shoot the guy and he's laying on that patch.
Yeah.
and you kind of see it start going through his nails and stuff, and then
I was like,
outside
no.
the other ones.
Yeah.
That was a really cool shot and scene of them coming back to life because of the.
Yeah, they do a good job kind of like foreshadowing every big move, like big advancement. So like she was like, oh yeah, bomb it all.
Yeah.
And then later on in the story, you know, she basically bombed the clickers and stuff like that at the end of it. And then with they did describe, when he was describing like the tendrils and how they worked, he kind of foreshadowed that as well. And so it's just kind of really smart, the writing. So it was good. Everything wasn't a huge surprise, but it's like you were equipped and ready for the reveals that they do at the end. But
Here's another question for you guys that play the game: is the Tess death that quick in the game, second episode, or is that completely different?
it's early.
I mean, in terms of like time when you're playing, it's probably
Well,
a little bit further
percentage wise,
but story wise,
yeah, it's pretty happens pretty
pretty
fast.
much spot
Okay.
on.
Okay.
I mean, they did cut out a bunch of like the going through the buildings, like you fight more clickers or whatever, but that stuff you just kind of have to cut in a show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in terms of like where they are in their journey in the story, it's right there. The only difference is, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe in the game they're being chased by the military
Yeah, I think
people.
so.
It's not the clickers that.
oh
come
yeah,
in.
they were fighting against the military guys.
Yeah.
More.
Yeah.
Okay, the
But
military
it's
guys,
The Fedra people.
yeah, the Fedra.
they're like not even involved yet, or now.
But it's the same way. I think like the people they were supposed to meet there were killed by clickers or something. But Tess pretty much dies the same way.
Okay.
She gets bit and she basically sacrifices herself. So
Yeah, that scene where the clicker walked up to it was super messed
Bro.
up, dude. I was like, come on,
Bro,
get that
I hate
get
that.
I
that
know,
fungus
that
out of
was
my
gross.
mouth.
at least close your mouth.
Was that the guy that Joel beat up?
I don't know. They focused on his face, so
I don't
think it was.
so.
Did
you have your glasses
Why would he
on?
make such a long?
Because he
wait,
he would have been
he would die.
Right
he would have been
outside
like
the-
way further away.
and they would have
But
burned
he
him.
could have been. To me, they focused on his face as if it was someone they knew, like as if you were supposed to recognize him. And I only watched it once, but it seemed like he was wearing the blue, like the
uniform.
the uniform.
Okay.
And his face was all like
Half
beat
of
in.
it's gone, but yeah.
And so I thought, was that the guy that Joel?
I don't think so, because he had a lot of fungus on his face.
Like,
So,
like half
usually
fungus.
it's the older one. Like,
Yeah.
it takes longer for the fungus to grow.
I think
that
they
long.
focused on him specifically because they wanted to connect that he was at that horde that they saw earlier, like kind of swarming around on the ground.
Oh.
Because they showed him earlier,
maybe
and then
that's
he's the
what
one
it
that stands
was.
up.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
They focus on
okay.
his face when
That
he
would make
stands
sense
up, I
why they
think.
focused.
And I don't know.
Yeah, that was kind of a weird.
Yeah,
Why focus on that? But
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what I was wondering, because I was like, am I supposed to know who that is?
Right.
It seems like she recognizes him. Is that the guy?
Does she really want to kiss?
I was trying to. Well, trying to. Come on, it's our first date. I barely know you. But like,
hate that.
so my first thought was like, oh,
Right.
is that the guy that Joel beat up and they just left him there and he got like bit by something and then came back and whatever.
Right.
So, anyways,
Oh, I mean, we
like I
literally
said,
just watched it. Like,
Yeah, I don't think it is though. I'll say that.
all right. What else? What else did you guys like about the episode? Is there anything that jumped out at you, or anything you disliked about the episode?
I mean, we kind of talked about it, but I like the fact that they're doing the kind of flashback stuff, and maybe they'll do that every episode and give you more background of like what's actually happening or what caused things and stuff. Like that's interesting because that really wasn't in the game, so it's cool getting new stuff like that. In terms of stuff I didn't like, I mean, I probably should be more like picky about it, more constructive criticism, but I mean, I don't want to come across as like, oh, I love everything.
you're biased
but,
or something. Yeah, no. I mean,
but
you're going to
really
be a
can't
little
think
biased,
of
but
anything really that I didn't like.
think about how you reacted with Uncharted. You
Yeah.
love Uncharted,
Yeah.
and you weren't being like, "Oh, it was actually kind of good, guys." You're like, "It's horrible." Like you were.
Yeah.
You honestly, I haven't watched it, but I bet if I watched it, I probably wouldn't think it was as bad as what you thought it was. You know what I mean?
Probably not. Yeah.
So, I mean, if nothing really came out at you mid episode while watching, I mean, that's pretty
can't
good.
really. I think, and the fact too that they've just nailed who the characters are. I mean, that's like if you get that right, the rest of the story should kind of just fall into place.
Oh yeah.
And I think that they've just done that so well that I'm buying into it like right away. So as of right now, as of these 2 episodes, I'm like, yes, this
Best
is,
show ever made.
This yes, best show.
Hands down.
Best video game show ever. Best
give
video
it
game adaptation.
10 out of
11
10.
out of 10. 11 out
11
of
out
10.
of 10.
11 out of 10. Future proofed.
What about you, Josh?
I mean, there wasn't really anything that I disliked or stood out to me strange, and like nothing like last episode where they were wet and then their feet weren't wet. You know?
Bullcrap, bro.
I almost thought that happened again because they go through the
Yeah.
water, but then he says, "Oh, we just went up 10 stories."
Yeah,
so you
yeah.
could believe that. Okay, they dried off.
They
a little
dried
bit, Yeah, I was like, okay.
Well, not that.
They
quick,
listened
guys.
to our last episode
Yeah.
and they went back and
Exactly.
did
They're
some editing.
They're like, we gotta add that line in there. It wasn't even Pedro Pascal that said it. It was like a different voice.
voice.
This went up these 10
Back was
stairs. No, but yeah, everything worked for me, and like nothing stood out to me. I was like, oh, I didn't really like that. I really like the stuff with Tess where you kind of see how she's like, how she like reacts like that's not my home, and you can see that she started to see that Ellie actually is real, and there is a possibility to have a different type of life, which is like I really like that of just kind of showing that she's kind of fed up with the life that she's had to live. She tells Ellie in the beginning like, we're not good people, like we're just trying to survive, and so like to see her at the end be like, this is real. Like we have a chance to basically redeem how we've been living, kind of a thing. I thought that was really, really effective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, this is a key part of the show / game is this, they're coming from this place of just no hope. It's 20 years after, like there hasn't been hope for so many years. And this is such a core component of the story is that she buys in early because she sees it and she connects the dots. And then Joel's this battle hardened, just life hardened guy he's just has a hard time buying or believing into it. And so that's why Tess is just such an important point in the story to kind of ignite Joel a little bit, push him to the next spot. So I don't know, man. Emotionally, just the tone, the acting's just spot on. I think they do a really good job. I'm always worried that some of these episodes are going to be slow or drag on or repetitive. I hope in the next episodes it's not super repetitive. I hope they keep varying it. Because in video games, you're doing a lot of the new things, but they introduce little mechanics and little new story beats or new units or enemies, and that varies it a lot. So that's the only thing I think I'm worried about looking forward. But this episode was good. Yeah. And it's not even like a ton happened. I mean, Tess passing away is huge. But just like the little reveals, the little reveals of, maybe there is hope and blah, blah, blah. It's cool.
Two things for me. So one thing, this is a small thing that I thought was really good, and it's a testament kind of to the writing, but they had like this throughout the episode, the whole sandwich stuff I thought was well done. Like, hey, do you want to eat something? She's like, oh, they packed me a sandwich. And then when she asks about, can I have a gun? She's like, what am I going to do? Throw my sandwich at them? And then later on, Joel does a thing like gets the flashlights out, and he's like, "Oh, what? She didn't pack you, like she only packed you sandwiches or something like that." So I just thought that was like a clever way to have like a back and forth. That I was like, it's not like it's good writing that they're going back and forth with the same thing. It's kind of clever. Like I just thought that was something that I enjoyed, and it's a small thing, but I think in the grand scheme of things, it kind of endears you to certain characters.
Yeah.
My negative on this episode is the reason I asked is if Tess dies earlier in the game, because I didn't really feel anything with her dying, because I feel like I just met her. I don't have a backstory with her really. Mm-hmm. So to me, it felt like it was a little early, and I know you can't, like if you're doing, I think it's 8 episodes, right? You have to get to a certain point, so you can't really drag on certain things. Like what would they have put in the episode to make me feel more? I don't know, but to me, it just kind of didn't land emotionally. I didn't feel anything. I think you that have played the game probably felt more because you have more of a background with her. But for me, that was a little bit of a negative, because I'm like, I think like they wanted you to feel more, but I didn't. And part of that is probably because I'm watching and, holding Neela, 2 months old, putting her to sleep. So I'm not really like invested as I should be. So that's probably on me. But at the same time, I just feel like it was kind of quick for me, and I think her death is supposed to make you feel something, and I didn't. So that's kind of just a little bit of a negative.
I don't know, man.
I don't think so.
you are. In the game, it was quick, and it's
really?
like,
So
it's this thing where she's like very like, they're very open about not being good people.
Right.
And like
Okay.
the stuff that she did, it's like, if you're not supposed to, I don't think you're supposed to empathize with her.
Right.
No.
And they didn't write it that way, and I never felt that way in the games
Right.
either. So yeah, this was just like standard. Like she
Okay, all right.
is a tool to just boost Joel forward and push him in the right
Right.
direction.
And
Yeah.
I think if anything,
That's why there wasn't any like sad music or anything.
right? Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think if anything, you probably actually get more like character time with her in the show.
Yeah.
You're definitely
yeah.
definitely are around her more in the game just because of the nature of a video game. But I mean, I think they do show more of her in the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, I don't think it's definitely not they missed it because you were supposed to shed a tear for Tess. I think what you're supposed to take away from it is that she changed her decision. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She was so stuck on like, screw everything, whatever. And now she's like, no, you have a purpose.
Yeah.
Get this girl to safety.
Yeah.
That's the message that you need to take forward from that. And it's the same message that you take forward with Joel. That it's like, this is something that's important. It's not Like,
It's not just another job.
we're not just getting
not
guns
fake.
now or whatever. It's like there's a reason behind this, and there's a little bit of hope. Yeah.
I think I would have brought up the same thing, Jonah. If I didn't know the story, I would have been like, so that was kind of flat,
Yeah.
with her, not knowing the story. So yeah, I think that's totally valid, and 100% that makes sense because we didn't feel anything either.
Yeah.
All right, well,
know
you
what
guys
I mean?
changing my mind. It's not a negative anymore.
Well,
It's a positive. It's just like
it's a
the video
positive.
game.
I mean, I don't know. Is it? I think it could be a negative.
Yeah.
I think there could be feeling. Maybe that is true. I think that is true.
Yeah, I think
A
just
little bit of a missed opportunity.
well,
maybe,
just for me, it was like, I
But
guess
it
I'm
happened so
I guess
quick.
I'm conditioned
to
to
expect.
well, no, like if there's a character that you're following when they die or sacrifice themselves, I think of Saving Private Ryan. One of the craziest scenes, is when the guy that the Upham lets live, and then he's taking out the guy, and he's, those things, like you really feel stuff there. And again, you're going through a whole movie at that point. Like, I guess you've kind of spent 2 hours with these characters already. So, but to me, it just kind of felt like I'm conditioned to feel something when someone sacrifices themselves, especially when you're like, oh, she sacrificed herself for the main characters.
Yeah.
And it didn't. So, I mean, it's good for you guys to let me know. It's like, it's not really what her character is.
They could have written another episode like in between these two and had more like development for her, get to know her better. But then you run the risk of like, okay, is this just a filler episode?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
and it just goes back to like, what is the point of her character? It's to give Joel the just, like you said, just a little push to the next step. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, she does come back later. She's not really dead. And then when she sacrifices herself the second time, that's when you
Then
really
you'll
feel
really
it.
feel it.
then you cry.
Okay,
That's a
Be good.
tearjerker.
takes a shot for her or something. Yeah.
Anything else about the episode?
No, looking forward to next week's.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, did you guys like this episode better than the first one? Kind of on par equally, or what do you guys like? What are you feeling so far? For me, it's kind of, they're really similar.
First one was better for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first one's just better just because of the emotional moments that are in that. I think the action was really good in this one. So the first one I think is better overall, but I mean, it's right up there. I don't think it was like, man, what a drop off from the first episode. It's like, it's right on track.
I'd say for me, they're pretty even. I would say I'm like, maybe I'd lean a little more towards episode 2 just because I know like, oh, we're getting like more into the story and we're getting closer to other things here and there. So that's probably why it's a little more exciting for me. But I mean, the first episode was great. So
Yeah. I was just so like delightfully surprised on what they did with the first episode, and it just played out really well, and the acting was just so spot on that I was just like, this is how you kick off a series right here. So I don't know.
Nice.
Do we know what the budget is on this show?
I don't know, but looks expensive.
Dude, that environment just on itself.
I think
like,
they're just filming in Detroit.
they're just going like this sometimes, like
That's what it looks
They're
like
in
there.
Flint, Michigan.
Yeah.
just photoshopping like moss everywhere.
That's actually the water they drink in Flint, Michigan.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like the clickers just look at like all the
Yeah.
It looks
the
so
practical
good. Yeah.
prosthetics they look so good.
There's another weird thing.
I really love fungus.
No, but
Stop.
there's these
When I was young,
there's these
tendrils.
shots they've had where it's like the people that are already like completely dead in their fungus, but you can still outline the faces, and they've got like the stuff coming out. Like that looks really cool. And I'm always like, oh, look, there's one right there. And I'm end up looking at that and not focusing on what's going on. 'Cause I'm like, that's really cool. So that's, I mean, another
You
weird
have to
thing.
go
but
back
that's
and
cool.
rewatch the episode.
Yeah, there you go.
looks amazing.
About how many fungi people can
Yeah.
get. I think that's it for.
I think that's it too.
I think that's it for the episode. Let us know what you thought about the episode. If you're watching along with us as well, let us know in the comments. Are you enjoying this episode? Are you enjoying this series? If you have anything you want to discuss on it, let us know. We love to talk about it. We appreciate you guys hanging out. Subscribe and like on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok as well. And we'll be back next week with more of the Nerd Age Podcast.